Well, hello, everybody, once again, and welcome to episode number 2 of the Mental Health Show. Obviously, what we're talking about here today is mental health. And last week's episode, to kick things off, was a great segue into all the services that are available in our communities. And we'll be reflecting back on all the episodes that we're going to be bringing to you in the future, as well as we come through the Mental Health Show. And again, here today, episode number 2. And as always, welcome. I'm your host, David Burrows. Happy to be here and be bringing you some more of our experts in the mental health field. And of course, COVID-19 comes into a lot of what we're going to be talking about here today as it continues on. And different things today in the mental health field. Today, we're going to bring on our guests. Let's get them in here right now as they're waiting. We have Lisa Uher and Megan Walker. Thanks for joining us today, ladies.
Thanks so much for having us, David.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I think it's I think it's really important what we're doing here with the Mental Health Show and connecting with people. And this is a new way of connecting with this whole virtual world. Lisa, let me start with you. You're with Chatham-Kent Children's Services. Just remind everybody what services that is, but what's your position there, and what are we going to be talking about today?
So I work, Chatham-Kent Children's Services, and we offer services in an integrated atmosphere for 0 to 18-year-olds. And we have mental health services, we have child protection services, and then we also have developmental services that fall under that. So quite a wide range there.
Right. Okay. And Megan, let's talk about who you're with the Canadian Mental Health Association and tell a little bit about your role there.
Yeah, so I'm the mental health promotion specialist at CMHA. So similarly to Allison last week, she's my counterpart in Sarnia office. I do a lot of workshops and presentations in the community about mental health. I'm also at Access Open Minds, our youth hub, and I do some walk-in counseling sessions with youth.
All right, very good. So as I said, folks, we've got some of the experts here, and feel free to type your questions or your comments into the chat wherever you're watching from. And maybe you're watching this live, or even if you're watching the replay, somebody will take the time to do their best to come back and respond to those questions in your comments as well. Megan, let's start with you. You heard me kind of lead into COVID-19. There's a word we hear every single day, multiple times. Right, just hearing the word can be stressful, right? Let's start with you, and then at least I'll come over to you on how has that been affecting people's stress levels?
Yeah, so naturally, anytime there's any change or unknown, a situation where we don't know what's going to happen next, it's going to bring up those feelings of stress, anxiety, and worry. So, of course, COVID-19 is such I'm going to say the word unprecedented again. I think we've heard it many times, but it definitely activates that stress response. And many of the clients that we're seeing reaching out are talking about feeling higher anxiety, isolation, and worry. So it definitely has a big impact on many of us in the community. But a big thing I like to get across is really normalizing that stress response, because we're all experiencing COVID-19 at the same time. So if you are feeling heightened stress or anxiety, just know, you're not the only one that may be.
I guess, and that's sort of important to know that you're not alone, I guess, really is kind of the message in that. You're not the only one that's going through this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Lisa, let's come over to you now, and I guess start off the same question there. How's the stress coming out of COVID-19?
Yeah, I would have to agree with Megan in working with families. I find sometimes the kids have been handling it a little bit better. Kids with a lot of high anxiety, kids that have been bullied at school, they seem to find a little bit of safety in this kind of hunkering down and not having to face a lot of the issues that they've had to. So that's been a very interesting trend that I've seen. Some of the others, though, are the stress levels of the parents that have risen up. And when we look at, I've had so many parents say, I'm not a teacher. I'm not even sure how to do this. I'm not sure how to react to my child when, their own emotions are getting very heightened, both parents and children. So there's been a lot of work in that regard to lessen that stress. And like you said, Megan, trying to normalize it and trying to take that pressure off of the parents a little bit as they navigate their way through this new way of educating their children and living in homes and very close quarters. So yes.
Yeah. Well, and I like how you put in there learning, because I don't think, this is one of those things where like, oh, that could happen someday, but not in my lifetime.
You're right.
Yeah.
And someday showed up all of a sudden. And here we are. There's already stress with parenting as it goes, what we would consider normal. And now there's this thing. And I have to imagine that it's probably a learning experience for you, the specialist, you, the counselor as well. And then having to take that information and portray that out. Talk about the delivery, Lisa, and then Megan, I'll come over to you with that as well.
Yeah. So, that's been a huge learning curve for everybody for delivering online service. And having parents feel comfortable with that. And we have a lot of people that used to not be have a technological way about them. Like they wouldn't have known the first thing of how to connect to Zoom or how to go online for things. And now they're having to learn in order to have that service delivered to them. So, you take it with a great sense of humor. We're all learning this together. We've had a lot of laughs over it, like this morning, us getting connected was kind of interesting. And you just make light of it, right? As much as you can. And again, you're normalizing it. And it's just been amazing watching how families have really taken up that challenge of learning this. In regards to kids and delivery of service to children, if you had told me a year ago that this is what you're going to be doing, I would have thought it was a near impossibility to do virtual sessions with children. And it's turned out to work out quite nicely. And it's really surprised me how I think because kids are used to this technology already, right? So this is how they communicate with their teachers now. This is how they communicate with their oftentimes family and friends. So they've taken it on a little bit easier sometimes than the parents. So utilizing a lot of really interesting ways to engage kids too. That's been another learning curve. Where am I going to find something that's really visually appealing to them that I can screen share with them? Right? Keep your attention. And how are we going to play games like we used to that are therapeutic, but we're doing it virtually? So it's been a very interesting, a good learning curve with its challenges. But like I said, take it lightly with lots of laughs.
Very good. That's a good medicine for sure.
Yes.
Megan, I imagine you have a similar response to that question with the learning curve.
Yeah, definitely. Even with our own coworkers at CMHA, trying to figure out the new technology, and then our clients too. But so far, we've heard pretty positive feedback from our clients liking the option of virtual or phone sessions or video when possible. So I think it's an area that we've wanted to get into, and there has been a push for more virtual services. So I guess COVID-19 just kind of gave us that push into the deep end. And now I think it'll be good moving forward to hopefully have a hybrid model where we are able to offer more options to those clients in the community who may not have, maybe there's transportation issues or other barriers that may have previously blocked their services. So I think it'll be have a good impact moving forward in terms of service delivery.
Well, it's kind of like what I said, forced to be creative and coming out of that. And actually, Lisa, you mentioned that before we went live here, that there's actually been a lot of positive that's coming out of this, if we look at it in the right perspective. But let's continue on. We're talking about mindfulness and grounding and stress management and self-care. Megan, I'm going to start with you on that one. Obviously, there's already the regular stresses of daily life, between jobs and money and parenting and health and activities and all the regular normal things. And now here comes along this little virus thing called COVID-19 and adds more stress into it all. How does this affect our mental health? And is all stress bad?
So I think that's a great point to bring up, because stress has that physiological response in our body that our heart rate starts going. We have that like pit in our stomach. But a lot of times when we first think about stress, we think about it's a negative thing, or we get overwhelmed by it. But I think it's important to recognize that stress can be positive for us. Stress is that motivation for us to get things done, or that push that we need to try something that was scary to us. And even thinking of COVID-19, it's had really some positive benefits for us in some of the behaviors that we're doing. So if we didn't have that stress response, we wouldn't be washing our hands or staying socially distant from one another. So stress at certain levels has a positive impact on us. And it's just kind of monitoring how much is too much for you. So really taking in those kind of mental health checkups is what I like to call it, on a maybe daily basis, and see, am I past that line of it being helpful, and is it becoming hurtful for me? So if you're starting to notice yourself getting very overwhelmed, maybe easily agitated, if it's affecting the things that you need to do day to day, then that's when we need to really take a look at it and see what are some things that I can do to take care of my mental health right now.
Right. And what are some of those things we can do? Like, I mentioned a point last week, people who step forward and ask for the help, which a lot of people don't like to ask for help. There's still the labels and the stigmas, all that stuff. But let's assume we can get past all of that and the person wants to reach out, etc. But what about the people who are by themselves, don't have family? Maybe they are seeing this show right here, and that's all the access they have to the outer world, because like you mentioned, transportation can be an issue. Finances can be an issue. I can't afford these services, and we'll talk about that. That person's watching right now. What can they do, self-care for themselves?
So self-care can be really anything that makes you feel good, makes you feel relaxed, and kind of calms you when you're feeling really overwhelmed or anxious. So really anything that you do during the day, whether that's going for a walk outside, going for a run, a bike, journaling, reading a good book, listening to music, all of these things are good distractions and are a good way to, maybe it's humor. Lisa, we talked about having that good sense of humor to the situation.
That's right.
Humor can be a huge thing to kind of calm ourselves down and distract ourselves from the stressors going on around us. And I think another important thing to note is sometimes we don't want to take time for ourselves because we feel like it's a selfish act. But I'm sure you've heard this saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. So if we're not taking care of ourselves, then we can't really do the things that we need to do during the day.
Right. Very good. So just take care of yourself and just be free to turn up the radio, right?
That's the one thing. Yeah, I love just putting on the music, maybe going for a drive and having music. That's what kind of makes me de-stress after a tough day. But it's figuring out what works best for you. And I mean, one big thing is mindfulness, which Lisa's going to give us some good strategies, but we always, stress and anxiety is usually worries about what's going to come or what's happened in the past. And we get caught up in the future or the past, and we're not actually paying attention to what's good in the current moment. So I'll allow Lisa to explain some mindfulness exercises and the benefits, but that's one huge piece for taking care of our mental health.
Perfect. Well, thanks for that. And I know you've got some resources to share, but we'll come back to you before we end up the show on that. But yes, Lisa, let's bring you into this now and talk about the mindfulness and grounding of all of this.
Well, we'll just start with that definition of what mindfulness is. So that's paying attention in a very sustained way to the present moment. And we do that non-judgmentally and with great self-care. So I'll play on Megan there because I think that's a very important thing. It's probably the epitome of mindfulness is taking care of the self and honoring the self, honoring where you are right now, what your thoughts are, what your body feels like, and doing it in without judgment and without trying to push it away. So I find with anxiety and with depression, those are things we want to leave, and we want them to leave right now. We're not comfortable in how we're feeling in our minds and in our bodies. But with mindfulness and paying attention and kind of sitting with that feeling and sensation, with a kindness towards ourselves. And another important thing is knowing it will change, that this moment right now, how you are feeling, all emotions change all the time. Our thoughts change all the time. So even if we're dwelling in the past, we have this beautiful ability to bring it back to this present moment. Okay. And we can do that in absolutely every moment of our day. As soon as we wake up in the morning, we can set an intention that I'm going to be very mindful. I'm going to try and stay in the moment. And that is when anxiety tends to creep in, is when we're prophesying what's going to happen in the future, what's going to happen tomorrow, how's this podcast going to go, oh my gosh, but bring it back to the present moment. Right now, everything is okay. And one of the best ways to bring yourself and to ground yourself in the present moment, and everybody can do it, is to breathe and to take a deep cleansing breath. And the more you learn the number of different techniques that there are, you can kind of pick and choose the ones that work best. But the foundation to bring you back to this moment right now would be, so I'm going to invite both of you to kind of feel your feet on the floor right now.
Okay, all right.
This is a great grounding practice. So everybody place those feet down. And I want you to really feel that connection underneath and pay attention to how your feet feel on the surface of the floor. Okay, so feel that pressure, feel the areas that are touching a little bit more than others. Maybe one foot's weighted more than another. And I want you to lift your toes up, and then I want you to lift your toes down. And then I want you to lift your heel up and pay only attention to the feet right now. And then we're going to ground those feet down. And now we're going to take in a breath. So we're going to take in a full breath. We're going to take in a nice inhale. We're going to try to bring that breath down as low into the belly as we can. And then we're going to exhale nice and long. So when we elongate our breath, make it nice and long, that triggers our relaxation response in the body. So we'll continue that. So we're going to inhale. You can count to 4 if you'd like. And then try to exhale to the count of 6. Nice and slow. And relax the body down. All right? We're going to do it one more time. Inhale all the way in. Nice full breath. Feel your feet on the ground. And exhale, bring that breath almost all the way down into the feet. So that's beautiful. So how do you feel right now? Did that help?
Well, don't put the host to sleep.
I know. Okay, there you go. So that's
we got to show to do, but I found it really interesting there. Just before you move on there, what I just observed was I just took a moment to focus on something else.
Exactly.
And it almost felt like a form of hypnosis in a sense of like focus on my feet. I never focus on my feet. I walk on them all the time, right? All these distractions around me and all that focus, just I feel a little different. Funny, I feel a little weird about it, and I don't mean weird in a bad way, but it's weird that I feel good just from breathing.
That's it. And so those are two very simple things: feeling your feet and feeling your breath. You can do it in the grocery store in line. You can do it when you're in the shower in the morning. You can do it while you're eating. You can do it with your kids, right? And those are things that we like to help our kids to understand, is that sensation and feeling in the body and feeling grounded. So when kids are feeling not grounded and not in the present moment, you're going to see a lot more hyperactivity and inability to focus. They're feeling a little more stressed. Maybe some more behaviors are showing. So that's one simple thing that you can do for kids and for adults. So we do it together. Parents do it and kids do those types of things.
And I was just going to say, you sort of touched on it there, maybe elaborate a little bit more, but okay, so I'm a parent and I have young children and I'm trying to raise them the best I can. Recognizing these things, or recognizing when this type of exercise is needed, or recognizing anxiety or depression. I'm not a counselor. I didn't go to school. I'm a parent. I don't know anything. Right? How do we recognize those things? What kind of tips can you give us as a parent there?
Did you want to go, Megan, on things to look for? Doesn't matter.
I'll let you go ahead first on the parenting side of things.
Yeah. So on the parenting, I think when we're mindfully parenting, we are staying connected to the children. We are observing and we're watching, and we're looking for things that might be out of the norm for them. Maybe they're sleeping a little bit more. Maybe there's more behaviors that you might not understand. Those types of things that are sustained over a long period of time. They might be affecting the family. The child might be not dealing with them, and the parent might not be dealing with some of these things in a positive way. So those are times when we can look for help, or those are times when we can bring some mindfulness practices. When I say paying attention to the child, that is looking at all of those elements, the relationship you have, the relationship they have with other people, maybe friends, and any changes that you might see there. One of the most important things too, we're on social media a lot more, and we're missing a lot of what kids are doing, and we're missing a lot of moments and beautiful moments as families and in our everyday life and interaction. So that's again where mindfulness is important, and mindfulness of technology is very important to look at and be aware of as a family, and particularly a parent.
Yeah.
And I think you bring up a good point of paying attention to the whole kind of situation and even your own reactions. I know we pay a lot of attention to our kids and taking care of our kids, but also think about, how am I responding or coping with this situation as well? Because how you act is going to affect how they react as well. But one really important piece that I want to kind of talk about too is when we think about some of these strategies, a lot of times it's easy for us to think about using them when we're in those heightened levels of stress, or, when we're seeing those signs come up. But it's really something we should be practicing on a daily basis, practicing mindfulness, stress management techniques, self-care. I like to think about self-care as similar to physical exercise. So at a very young age, we're all told daily amounts of physical activity to keep our physical bodies healthy, but we never really got taught what do we do to keep our minds healthy. So self-care is basically that. It's something we need to be doing ongoing, and if we aren't practicing the skills, we're not going to know how to use them in the times that we really need to.
Right. I like that you brought that up, because I think I've always felt that too. Like, we need to exercise this. We focus on the body a whole bunch, and we should. Could it be as simple as, for me, I've always said, read 10 pages of a good book every day, or a positive book, or, but our children like to be on the social media, as you mentioned, Lisa, and they love to watch videos, this YouTube thing. Is it okay to have them watch videos, but maybe we have them watch, here's a particular video?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say just once again, be mindful of what they're watching and what the amount of time is on it, and how beneficial it's going to be. When you look now at, and not all is bad, just like not all anxiety is bad, not all technology is bad, and not all social media. So I think when you look at all of the apps that are out for mindfulness and for meditation, and you look at the numbers, there's been a significant increase of almost 50% on the Calm app, on Headspace, on Insight Timer since COVID has started. So people are being drawn to, which is a great thing, Megan, that self-care of the mind and the brain, and utilizing these in a really positive way. There's great apps for kids. The Breathe Kids app is fantastic. The Calm app also has for families, for adults. It speaks to anxiety. It speaks to sleep issues, mindful eating. And it can walk you through daily 10-minute meditations where we're exercising our mind, we're bringing ourselves into the present moment, and focusing on the breath and breathing. And the benefits of that, just to do 10 minutes a day For a child, or a child can do 5 minutes, 3 minutes. But for a parent, you're going to see a decrease in depression, a decrease in anxiety. Kids are better able to emotionally regulate themselves by just integrating some of these tactics into their daily life. So,
okay, and it's important, this information. But here I am dealing with my child, and I'm saying, okay, you're going to do this, and you're going to breathe, or you're going to focus on your toes and your head. Like, oh, Mom, what am I going to do this for? And now I mean, now I need to explain as a parent why we're doing this. What's the answer? Because I think that word mental health sometimes still, I don't want to hear that words together. How do I answer that to my child? Can you give me an example? Maybe Megan, let's come back to you.
Yeah. I think it's kind of similar to what we said earlier. It's, how would you explain it if you were talking about physical activity, right? It's taking care of our physical health. So saying it in a similar way, like it's taking care of our brains. It's also having a positive impact on our bodies as well, right? Because if we're overwhelmed, anxious, that has that physiological response. But I have a couple of young nephews, and one of them in particular was in elementary school, and at a young age nowadays, they're doing mindfulness activities in school. So, I mean, he would come home and say, oh, I have to do my meditation exercise. I'm like, this is great. Like, so it is normalizing it. And I think a really important thing is that as parents, we're practicing what we're telling them, because if we model that behavior, they're going to be more inclined to do it as well.
Yeah. And then also gives
lead by example, right?
Yeah.
It's also such a wonderful tool to teach them about their bodies, how their body feels. It helps them to gain control over something, their breath, their breathing. I can control my emotions through this. And when they start to practice it over a long period of time, they start to see some of those benefits. And the parents that the kids that I work with start to see the benefits. So they said, oh, like Johnny, I could see him breathing. He was starting to get in a fight with his brother, and I watched him take 5 breaths and he walked away, But I think that attention and a body awareness is one of the most important things that mindfulness can teach to adults and to children, and integrating it as a normal part of life, right? Just like you said, Megan, exercise is normal and good. So is all the exercise for our brain, and that honoring of our body, I think, is really important.
I think, there's a lot of emotions that we're talking about here. And, we always mention anxiety and depression. We even talked about laughing, and happiness. One of the emotions that I don't seem to hear come up a lot, and I'm not sure why, is that word anger. And that's, and I've heard the term, temper tricking, or like you say, and being mindful of that, because that anger that is within us all somewhere, right? I mean, and it's okay to be angry, is it? It's just how you're angry, really, and how you handle it. It makes it okay. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think anger is just, it's a part of everyday human experience, right? And yes, that's going to happen, and we are going to be angry. But I think that's where that self-regulation skills come in. And how can I not lose control of my anger? So am I able to notice where anger is in my body? And as soon as I notice that anger, that's what I try to teach children. As soon as I notice, they'll say, I feel it in my head, or my hands get clenched, my body gets tense. So what do we do at that point so that it's not out of control? So that's where self-regulation skills come in at that point.
Yeah.
And I would agree.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I would agree. Anger is kind of a natural response. Usually it's, sometimes underneath anger is that fear. And this is the way we're expressing other emotions. And similar to Lisa, I've worked with youth too, and kind of working on their little anger thermometer, and how can your family help support you? So, whether it's pointing on this thermometer, this is where my anger's at now, and these are the things that I need you to do to help calm me down as a family. Those are things that we've worked on as well, and really skill building for self-regulation.
Right. Wow, we've got a lot of information coming from both of you. I think it's fantastic what you're sharing here today. And I think, again, what we're doing here today is really important. And for those of you who are watching, please take the time to share your questions and your comments. And it might take some time, but somebody will get back and respond to them. And we're posting all the links here. Reach out to the agencies here that are available. I think, if anything, just letting people know that the agencies and organizations are here. And we talked about it last week. The services are free. So we've removed the financial barriers. We've removed the stigmas. You are not alone. And again, that's one of the reasons we're here talking today. Lisa and Megan, you'll be involved in this too. You've both shared quite a few resources here with me on, we talk about using those devices. Mine's right here, and Lisa, start with you. Can you share some online resources that you would recommend?
Oh, well, we had chatted a little bit about Palouse Mindfulness. So that's an 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction program. And it's unbelievable that it is a free program, and I've done it myself, and it'll walk you through 8 weeks of learning the different techniques. It's really based for adults or teens. I've had some teens that have been interested in it, and as parents, or if you've ever been interested in learning more about meditation and all of the benefits of it and how to live a mindful life, this is a fantastic program for that. For children, there's a lot of online resources. So if you go online, for example, I have, I'll just show you this. It's like 6 ways to practice grounding. I just found that online and I printed it off, and I'll give this out to families kind of to put up in their house, on their fridge, things that they can all practice as a family together. And the other one that's really good is called Teachers Pay Teachers. And it is, there's a lot of resources for teachers. There's amazing resources for parents that are having to homeschool, but also for families and counselors. And so for example, so that's grounding strategies for children and their little cards. So again, these are great practice tools that the kids can use and that families can use together. I can't remember what else I had on there.
I know you had, there's something else here, Anxiety Canada.
Oh, yes. Anxiety Canada has also a new app out, and it is anxiety based. And I've kind of played with that a little bit, and it's amazing. It's a great app. And they have a lot of wonderful resources on there as well for families, for teens, children's resources as well. So it's a great place to start. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Lots of great resources. And I know there's a whole list, and it's nice to, I know we can Google this stuff, but it's nice when it's coming from you, the experts, to go, this is what we use. It kind of reaffirms that this is a good direction to take. Megan, let me come back over to you and have you talk about, you've listed, let's start with Bounce Back Ontario.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Bounce Back, it's a program out of CMHA Ontario. It is a free program, and it's basically like a self-guided workbooks that you can get. You can either download them online or you can get them mailed to you as well. Kind of depends what type of learner you are. And it's cognitive behavior therapy based, so it's really helpful for that kind of moderate anxiety, depression. They have expanded their services now, especially in light of COVID. So really any kind of stress or anxiety or worry related to COVID-19 is also helpful to use this resource. Okay. As well, you can also have access to an online coach who can help you through some of the materials too.
Wow. Okay. Mm-hmm. That. Here's one that I've heard of, but I'm not really familiar with, bigwhitewall.ca.
Yeah, so Big White Wall, it's more of a peer support platform. So it's provided by the Ontario Telemedicine Network, and it's a safe space that anybody 15 and older can access. And it's great to have conversations with others who might be experiencing similar things to you, building that network of support. There's some creative components and resources on there as well. And it's monitored 24/7 by trained clinicians too. So if you needed to have a conversation with one of them, you could do so as well.
Right. And of course, most of us have heard of this one, but maybe not. We'll talk about it. Kids Help Phone. This is huge.
Yeah. So we talk about Kids Help Phone all the time. So even if you just go to their website, there's so many resources on basically any topic you could think of, some great articles and tips that you can search on your own. You can also chat online to a counselor or with a counselor. You can call their phone number to have phone sessions with a counselor 24/7, and you can also text them now. So I know that's a big push that we're seeing, especially with youth.
Yeah.
And that's one that I've heard some really positive feedback on.
Yeah. And I like the 24/7 thing, you know, and I all this costs money to put on, but again, to the user or to the client, there's no charge for these services. I want to make that clear. But it's nice that they're able to be 24/7 because mental health doesn't work 9 to 5, right? Maybe the middle of the night, all of a sudden, that thought right there, and we don't like to call our friend in the middle of the night, even though they say we can, right? It's still nice to have those other options in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, I want to come back to you. Well, I'm going to come back to you both now. We're getting close to wrapping things up here. Some great information, and it's nice to know that these services are being adapted for people. I know, and security measures have been taken to make sure that the confidentiality of all of this is, I know, number one priority to all the organizations. That's been well looked after. We can reassure people that. Just kind of in a wrap up now, I'll give you a last chance to maybe anything we haven't talked about or something you want to reinforce before we go.
I do want to reinforce that people are not alone, and that if they're feeling that they have questions about their children, things just don't seem right, they're at a loss of what to do, or they need some more resources, to definitely reach out. I think of it, you said that, you know, it's a sign of weakness. I think it's a sign of strength when somebody can come from a place of vulnerability and fear and say, you know what, we need some help here. And we're willing to go and look for that help. So it's absolutely a sign of strength. So you can call Chatham-Kent Children's Services at 352-0440 and ask to speak to one of the workers there. We have walk-in every day. So if somebody just wanted a single session, they just wanted a little bit of information or more information based on today, feel free to call the agency for that. And then we also have long-term and stat, and that would be determined at that time. So.
Very good. Yeah, thank you so much for being here today, and thanks for all the wonderful information that we're getting again. Megan, what about you?
I think Lisa kind of summed it up quite nicely. I think a key piece, like she said, is sometimes, and David, you mentioned this as well, we don't want to reach out to others or feel like we're bothering people, but just knowing that at this time, we're all in this together, we need to check in on ourselves and on others. And, you know, knowing that there are services still out there that you can reach out to, although the services might look a little bit different and they might be changing as we kind of progress over the next couple of months, we're always here. At CMHA, we have our 24/7 mental health first response team, both in Sarnia and in Chatham. So definitely reach out if you need to. You don't have to wait until it's really bad to reach out. We encourage you to reach out earlier rather than later. It's a little bit of an easier process to learn some of those skills if we're not waiting for that crisis moment. So really trying to reduce the stigma with talking about your mental health and just knowing that it's okay not to be okay and it's okay to reach out.
Right. And it's never a bother, right? It's time to think, well, you know, that's for other people or that's not me. If you're not even sure, just pick up the phone or get online, whatever it is. We'll be posting all the links that we've been sharing during this broadcast on our Facebook pages and YouTube channel as well. So, ladies, thank you so much once again for being a part of the Mental Health Show. And thank you, by the way, for what you do. I know because you are talking about putting this all out there, but you're dealing with this as well. And you're not just, you still have your own lives and you're dealing with other lives as well. So I know I, for one, and many others do appreciate what you're doing for the communities that you serve.
Well, we love the work we do.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's awesome. I want to say a special thank you to as well to our friends at United Way Sarnia-Lambton, who've been a part of making this show being brought to you, the possibilities that have been able to, and we're going to be sharing with in the future, thanks to the United Way of Sarnia-Lambton. Once again, Megan, Lisa, thanks for joining. And for all of you who are watching, stay safe and stay mentally healthy out there, and don't be afraid to reach out to our organizations. Try to talk, David. Until the next episode, I'm David Burrows. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye for now.